Hello everyone and welcome to the conclusion of the Grandchester Croatia tournament that was played in Zagreb. It's Ivan Saric versus Magnus Carlsen from the final round of the Blitz section. Now, for those of you who are perhaps just joining in, it was a really wild ride. Gukesh won the rapid section and went into the Blitz section with a 4-point lead over Magnus. Already on day one, Magnus caught up to Gukesh and was leading the tournament, and all that he had to do was not mess up the final day. He did not play nearly as good as he did yesterday, and he even said in an interview that, he is obviously quite dissatisfied with his play, and that he thinks that the only reason he won the tournament is because none of the other guys, well, not only that, the field was strong, but none of the other guys really had an exceptional tournament. So even, if he doesn't play well, he can still win a very, very strong tournament. So it's a funny game I've chosen because last day I think he drew most of his games, and he already won the tournament at the point of playing this game. So I thought, I know that Ivan is an E4 player. Will Magnus, try for some sort of a Berlin? But I don't think so, as there's no way that Ivan would go for a draw. I don't think so, even against Magnus Carlsen. So Magnus, after pawn to E4, played pawn to G6, the Robatsch or the modern defense. Ivan played D4. We have D6, knight to C3, and bishop to G7. We have bishop to E3. Pawn to A6, this is the standard line. We have H4, pawn to H5, and the bishop to C4. So very natural development, and Magnus goes knight to F6. Okay, what can Ivan do? The position has been reached before, even in some top-level games. For example, Vladimir Fedoseev won a very nice game against Anatoly Fokin with pawn to F3, and it's even the top move recommended by the engine. But here we have knight to F3 by Ivan, and it is now as of move 7 that we have a completely new game. Magnus immediately tries to take advantage of this, as the G4 square is now available, plays knight to G4. And he just wants to capture the bishop on E3 and claim the advantage of the bishop pair. Ivan will not allow it. Bishop to G5. We have knight to C6. Magnus develops, and queen to D2. We have pawn to F6. Chasing the bishop back, bishop to E3. And now Magnus does not capture right away. Interestingly, he just plays pawn to E5. We have castles queenside by Ivan, knight captures on E3, F captures, and E captures on D4. We have knight captures on D4, and now knight to E5. A very annoying knight, as you don't have the D pawn or the F pawn to kick it away. So bishop to E2, or rather, no, I thought bishop to E2 was played. Bishop to B3, and pawn to C6. Magnus now getting ready to start expanding on the queen side. Knight C to E2, and queen to E7. So both players playing fairly quickly. You can see that plenty of time on the clock. Knight to F4, putting pressure on that G6 pawn. For the moment, the knight is defending it, but could be very interesting. We have bishop to G4, going after Ivan's rook, and now knight D to E6. And what is the idea behind this move? Well, the idea is if you capture the rook on D1, simply rook captures on D1, and okay, yes, you gave up an exchange, but you have a very, very strong position, and it's not easy to develop. You can't really get your king into the game. You can go king to F7. The bishop is here. King to D7 also wouldn't be that great of a choice with the queen and rook being on the D file. So it's a very tricky position. But after knight D to E6, Magnus did not go for that, and he also could play G5, but we'll get into that later. He played bishop to H6. He says, I don't want your rook. I would rather if you just move it away from the D file so my D pawn isn't hanging. And here, Ivan should play queen to A5, not go for the D6 pawn, and, threaten that knight to C7 check. Then Magnus would have to defend with rook to H7. But he played queen captures on D6. We'll probably use this as the position for the thumbnail. Magnus captured, Ivan captured on D6, and Magnus played king to E7. And here you really should bring the rook all the way back, or rather rook H to D1 and now give up the rook. It's the best move you have. Otherwise, you're just going to lose the game, or you will if your opponent figures out what's the problem. Rook to D4 is what Ivan played. He decided not to give up the exchange, and now Magnus is completely winning. But it's not easy to find, I imagine. So have at it. Can you find the win that even Magnus missed here in this position? Magnus had 3 minutes on the clock. You can also, spend that much, but no more. So the move is fairly straightforward, and that is pawn to g5. That's all there is to it, because the knight is attacked twice. So if you kick away this knight, that means that this knight is lost, and that's it. It's a free piece. H captures and g5 can be played. It doesn't really do all that much. Just f captures, the knight is still hanging, and while you can bring it to d3, this knight will capture with check. So captures with check, and then you capture on e6, and you're just up a full bishop. Black has a dark square bishop, white does not. Magnus played something similar. He played bishop captures on e6 first, which still works, but it's as if he had some sort of a weird moment. Even played bishop captures on e6, and now Magnus just doesn't see it. Again, g5 just wins on the spot. g5 captures, the knight has to move, and the bishop is lost. But Magnus doesn't see it. He played bishop captures on f4, probably thinking, okay, I'm going to capture on e6 next, but now even just captures, and now the knight is hanging as well. And now we have king captures, pawn captures on e5, king captures on e5, and rook d7. A position where the material is for the moment equal, with Ivan having a very, very strong rook on the 7th rank. But okay, Magnus does grab the e4 pawn, and we have rook to e7 check, king to f4, rook to f1 with check, king to g3, and now rook captures on f6, threatening rook captures on g6. So rook h to g8, and now Ivan even captures on b7. So for the moment, Ivan is up a pawn. King captures on h4, and now rook to b3. Okay, equal material. Magnus is king in a pretty difficult position. Rook a to f8, offering a trade of rooks, and the rook captures on c6. Ivan declines the rook trade and grabs a pawn. But now it's Magnus's turn to start checking. Rook f1 check. We have king to d2 and the rook to f2 check. And believe it or not, you have to go to e1. Interestingly, as he's playing against Ivan. But Ivan does not go to e1, and he goes king to e3. Everything other than king to e1 is losing. He played king to e3, and now Magnus is just winning. Rook captures on g2. We have rook captures on a6, and now pawn to g5. And yes, Ivan is up a pawn, but it doesn't matter, as your rooks are not behind your passed pawns, and the pushing will be too slow. So Ivan starts with pawn to a4, but just rook to g3 check, king e4, and Magnus happily simplifies, as it is still winning. So it's better to have a winning position that's simpler than a complicated winning position, of course. We have pawn to g4, and here king to e3, and he was in this position on move 37 that Ivan Saric resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. To show you a quick example, just pawn to g3, and there is no stopping this pawn. Even if you give up the rook, doesn't really matter. You can give up the rook, captures, but the rook will easily stop all of the pawns, like a5, rook g3 check. You're going to pick up the pawn on b3, and that's it. The rook will, of course, stop these pawns. You can even give up the rook for you capture this one, then you capture this one. Even if the king captures it, you still have the h-pawn. So it's completely winning. But yeah, Magnus won the event, and I think he's always very glad to win a game against Ivan, because for those of you who may not know, Ivan is one of the few people in the world who have a positive score against Magnus Carlsen in classical chess. He has one victory, and one of the games were drawn. So I imagine Magnus always likes to beat him. But yeah, Magnus wins it's his third Grandchester Croatia event that he wins in Zagreb. But that sounds weird, because he won every one that he played. He didn't play some of them, so he didn't win those. But in every one that he played in 2019, in 2023, and in 2025, he just won. And also, out of the 12 events in the Grandchester that Magnus participated in, he won 10. Which is absolutely incredible. It's I don't know who said it once, but it just always seems to be true. Something like chess is a game of 32 pieces, 64 squares, and where Magnus Carlsen always wins. A little bit cheesy, perhaps, but yeah, I mean it's definitely true. So and these are the standings, so we don't forget. So Magnus Carlsen wins it all. Even though he's a wild card for the Grandchester, so he is not officially part of the tour. He just, came to Zagreb. He was invited. He said, okay, as he did say that Zagreb is his favorite city in the world. So, always good to have him. And yeah, he won a very nice tournament, wins $40,000. Wesley So wins second place. Gukesh wins third place. then Alireza, Young Shistov Duda, Nodrbek, Fabiano, Anish, Pragnananda, and Ivan Saric in last place. So it was, definitely a crazy tournament. Magnus thought that it wasn't going to be easy, but everyone said it. First, everyone said, okay, Gukesh will not do well in Rapid. Then Gukesh just obliterated everyone in Rapid. And then everyone was saying Gukesh will, not do well in Blitz. And everyone said, well, you also said that about Rapid. But it seems that something still, needs to click. I think at least this is my idea. It's I think it's a silly idea, but it's one of the things that I thought of. I think Gukesh plays incredibly well, and then when he gets to maybe below 10 seconds, he gets those 2 seconds increment, which is he doesn't when his opponent makes a move, it's like he doesn't make a decision immediately. Like 10 seconds increment in Rapid, that's enough. Like he in 5 seconds he already has a miraculous idea. But I think it's the 2 seconds that are an issue for him. I have no idea, but I've been watching the video of the game, and it's the sort of the vibe that I got. I don't know. But yeah, that's the game. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Big congratulations to Magnus Carlsen on winning yet another event. What are you going to do? I would like to thank James Sanderson, Guillermo Ishmael Garcia Borges, Benjamin Heuberger, Nikola Nenad Stankovic, and Eric Vasquez for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing the check up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. Thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.